Welcome back to Nordic Arms and History. Today I'm going to be talking about the Landsverk L-120. This is Norway's first and only tank that we had before 1940 when the Germans invaded. Also, its history is very interesting and it shows a lot of economic struggles with the Norwegian government at the time, as well as its fate is also very interesting. We do not know where it is, if it's in a barn somewhere, or if it's in the bottom of the ocean, or if it's just turned into screws by the Germans during the war. We don't know. So let's begin and see how Norway adopted this tank in the first place. This tank's history starts in the 1930s, as Norway was relatively late to start tinkering with armored vehicles. The Royal Norwegian Army had at the time 3 armored trucks of varying design. These Panserbil were crude and simple attempts at domestic armored cars. Sadly, Norway did not have the budget to have a fully fledged program to develop these armored cars, and only started to improve in 1939, but it was too little too late. In 1936, the army was looking for something more, and the Landsverk L-120 caught the interest of the Norwegians. 2 chassis were being, at the time, tested by their neighbor, Sweden. The L-120 would not see any further development as Sweden cancelled the project in 1937. However, Norway was interested in purchasing one of the chassis for their own development, and the army was given a budget of 20,000 Norwegian crowns. An issue developed when it came to shipping. Sending the tank whole would have risen the total cost up to 50,000 crowns. To reduce this, they stripped the armor and removed the turret of the tank. Norway took delivery of the chassis in 1938. The tank received 2 names, Kongestanken and Rikstanken, both being double entendres according to Forsvarsmuseet, Norwegian Armed Forces Museum. Tanken in Norwegian means 2 things. It can mean tank or thought. So Kongestanken can mean the king's tank or king's thought or royal thought. And Norgestanken would mean, well, Norway's tank or the Norway thought, which was an old nationalistic term for an independent Norway. Keep in mind that many in Norway at the time still remember when Norway was under Sweden. It was in 1905 Norway had gained its independence, so its 2 names had a lot of national and royal pride in them. With this 3D model, I've brought this tank back to life, and we'll also be using this to show the details and specifications of the tank, as well as getting up close and personal with it as well, as it does not exist today. As the tank did not come with a turret when it was delivered to the Norwegians in 1938, they had to create one themselves. What they ended up making was a very simplistic, cylinder-shaped turret with slots on each side, with a hatch on the top for the single crew member. Keep also in mind that this is in iron and not steel. For armament, they went for the Colt M29 Mitrailleuse, or heavy machine gun, this being the export model of the famous Browning M1917. However, it was chambered in this, a domestic 7.92 by 61 cartridge. This round was specifically created for this machine gun to give better range so it could be used in an anti-aircraft role. This round was also produced at the Raufoss ammunition factory. The gun was water-cooled and mounted on a simple pivot that stuck out the turret with a simple circular cutout. The tank had 2 crew members. In the turret, there was a commander gunner, and in the front, on the hull, there was a driver. The driver was in fact quite exposed, as you can see here. Now moving on to the running gear. This tank utilizes a torsion bar suspension system, which is rather modern for the time, as this was only invented in 1931. You can also see the main drive sprocket is connected to the front of the tank, which is then connected to a 5-speed Volvo gearbox, which was apparently taken from a LV93 truck. When the tank was in Swedish hands, it had lever actuated steering, but in Norwegian hands, it had a steering wheel. The tank is powered by a 85 horsepower 6-cylinder Volvo type DC engine, also from the VL93 truck. Theoretically, the tank could reach up to 50 kilometers an hour, however, the engine proved to be underpowered and unreliable. The tank only reached 25 kilometers an hour in tests. The brakes also had an issue. They were too weak. This in fact caused an incident where the tank collided with a tree during an exercise in Trøndelag. From what we know, the tank weighed around 4.5 tons, its length was about 4 meters, its width was 1 meter and 75 centimeters, its height 1 meter and 65 centimeters. In January 1938, Colonel Kristoffer Faugnad highlighted in a lecture that Norway's single tank was woefully inadequate for training soldiers in anti-armor warfare. He warned that without acquisition of more tanks and other armored vehicles, most Norwegian soldiers would encounter their first tank on the battlefield, and it would likely belong to an attacking enemy. Sadly, due to Norway's economic constraints at the time, this prediction came true when Norwegian soldiers faced German Panzer I and II tanks during the 1940 invasion. While records of the tank's service history are largely lost, we can put together some fragments. We know that the tank was first used in a field maneuver at Jæren in 1938. It primarily participated in exercises with the Norwegian cavalry alongside the 3 armored cars. The tank was stationed at Gardermoen, north of Oslo, where the 1st Dragoon Regiment was based. By 1940, when the Germans invaded Norway, the tank and the armored cars were still at Gardermoen, left behind as the country faced occupation. During the occupation, the tank became quite the trophy as many Germans wanted to take a picture with the Rikstanken. Sadly, the rest of its history and fate are unknown today. And as of today, nothing of the tank has reappeared. We do not know whether the Germans scrapped the tank, like it did with the armored cars, or if it's hidden in a barn or dug underground somewhere. One clue could be this picture here, showing the tank being loaded onto a ship. However, no German documents mention the tank ever leaving the country or being loaded onto a ship. Also, these photographs recently surfaced showing the tank was still at Gardermoen in 1940 and 1941. However, this is where the trail runs cold. Looks like for now, its fate will have to remain a mystery. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions regarding the L-120, consider leaving a comment down below. If you want to recommend this video to more people, consider liking it. That'll let the algorithm know that other people should look at it as well. Also, if you want to learn more about Nordic arms and history, consider subscribing. Until the next one, take care. Bye-bye.